Hi everybody, welcome to me and Grok in the kitchen. Today I'm going to make a very old-fashioned recipe. I'm going to make chicken and gravy with dumplings. Now, I understand that depending on where you live in the United States, you may have your own version of this. That's perfectly fine. This is the way I grew up eating it. It's my favorite. I've been serving it to my family for generations, and so this is the way I'm going to do it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make my actual gravy. I don't buy gravy mix generally, mostly because it's got a lot of things in it, like anti-caking things and what have you. I don't like that stuff, so I make my own. This recipe for gravy is super great. You can just put it in a container, a covered container in your refrigerator. Lasts forever and easy to use. Once you get it done, it's basically quarter cup to a cup of water or milk or whatever you're using, broth, in order to be able to just make it for regular gravy. But I'm actually going to use it as the gravy for my chicken and dumplings. Okay, let's get started. So this is my food processor bowl. And into this, I'm going to add just a few things. I'm going to add 1 1/3 cups of dried milk. Also, 3/4 cups of just all-purpose flour. This is going to give your gravy creaminess. This flour is going to be your binder. It's going to be what makes it thick when you cook it down. Then I have this. This is chicken base. And chicken base is basically just chicken broth that has been cooked down and cooked down and cooked down and cooked down until it becomes like a paste. The only thing that I would warn you of is that it's quite salty. So don't add any salt to this mixture or your finished food until you've had a chance to taste and make sure that it's not too salty, because this adds a lot of salt to everything because it's got the gravy in it. This is about 1/4 to 1/3 of cup of that chicken base. I'm also going to add 1 stick or 1/2 cup of unsalted butter. Again, lots of salt already in that chicken base, so you don't want to add more by adding salted butter. And then my herbs, I have 1 teaspoon each of sage leaves, ground sage, and thyme leaves. And you don't have to, you can use everything ground if you want. You can use the same measurements. It's not going to make that much difference. It'll be a little more potent. But I really like the texture that the leaves give. It gives it more of a homemade type of vibe to it. That's why I use it. And then I also use white pepper. And this is one of the very few times that I actually use white pepper. And I do it because I don't want the black flecks of black pepper running around in my gravy. Somebody who's not familiar with cooking are going to be like, what's the little black speck? Well, that might be pepper and it might be all fine, but this way just melts right in. Nobody even knows it's there. It still gives you a lot of the same peppery notes, but it's also got a little bit of a floral note to it, which is perfectly fine in your gravy, but it's the major difference between black pepper and the white pepper. That's all that's in here. Again, no salt, because that chicken base already has plenty of salt in it. Right in. So I'm going to take this to my food processor and I'm just going to whirl this around until it all gets mixed together. I don't necessarily need it to be not have chunks of butter in it, but I want it to be well incorporated. Okay, so you can see what it looks like. It's got a little, almost, not quite a dough, sticks a little bit, not really, quite crumbly. This is exactly what you're looking for. Everything is really well incorporated. Now, I am going to add this to 6 cups of just plain water. Remember, it's got the powdered milk in it, so you're going to get that creaminess anyway. And I don't need to actually add broth. You could, if you're adding broth, make sure you use no salt. Okay, so you can see my gravy mix in here and my 6 cups of water. You're just going to whisk this around It's not going to all melt. You're still going to have your, some chunks and things in there. This is cold water, by the way. You don't want to add it to hot water because your stuff is just going to clump right up and it's not going to do what you want it to do. That's because of the flour that's in here. Now, the fact that we added it really well to the butter is going to help also make it, um, you know, keep the flour from clumping up. But this is a really good step to start with. All right. Now I'm gonna just turn this on, and I'm gonna turn it on like medium high. I don't want it to cook too fast, but I do want it to cook. And I'm gonna actually continue to use my whisk as it comes up to temperature. And you're starting to see that it's starting to get a little more thick. You can clearly see, tell by the feel of your whisk that all of the fats are now melted and it's starting to thicken up and get nice and smooth, which is exactly what you're looking for. Okay. So this is really starting to thicken up. So you can tell by the way the whole thing stirs. You can see it's starting to thicken up. I do not want this to boil yet. I'm still going to make dumplings and I need to do that. I don't want this to get too hot while I'm doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my stove off. And what I have here is 8 cups of leftover chicken. This has all been pre-cooked. Most of it is chicken that is left over. It's about a half a chicken left over for one that I roasted earlier in the week, and I'm just now using up the leftovers. The other part of it is oftentimes I will cook more boneless, skinless turkey thighs so that when I need a nice protein snack in the middle of the afternoon, I've got something I can just come down and grab out of the refrigerator and it's eaten. It's a nice little serving and gets me through the rest of the afternoon before supper. I've just chopped this up. Some of it shredded, all depends on how it came off the chicken bone. I'm going to just add this right in. And give it a little stir. And I'm going to leave that just like that while I go make my dumplings. So to make my dumplings, I'm going back to my food processor. Why dirty another dish? Into my food processor, I'm going to put 1.5 cups of just regular all-purpose flour. I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of salt. I know. And 2 teaspoons of baking powder. This is going to give your dumplings rise. And then I'm also going to add 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Now, I know you're asking me, Kat, why are you putting in unsalted butter and salt when you could have just used salted butter? And the answer is that you never know for sure how much salt you're going to get from your butter. Try to remember that, just because it tastes salty on your tongue because you're making toast or something, doesn't mean it's going to overpower everything else. So I very much prefer to use unsalted butter when I can and add my own salt. It also gives you a lot of license to be able to decrease that salt if you want to, so that you can use just less salt in your diet if you want. So into this, I'm also going to add my butter. Now, I also have here 3/4 of a cup of whole milk. And whole milk for the fat, help offset some of that saltiness that's in the thing. I'm not going to add that yet. I'm going to first do this like I would like a pie dough. And I want to get that butter incorporated into some of this flour before I add my milk in. So I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I have my flour and fat mixture all put together, my butter, I'm going to go ahead and add in that 3/4 of a cup of whole milk. And I'm going to just put this back on the food processor till it all comes together and makes a nice cross between a dough and a batter. You'll see what I mean. Okay, so that took all of 3 seconds. All right, let's take my knife out, and you can see as I'm moving it here that this is kind of thick and doughy, but it's kind of wet for an actual dough. I'm going to just scrape the sides, make sure that we get everything. All that yummy butter goodness in there. Okay, we are ready for the next step. So now we're going to bring the gravy right up to pretty much a boil. You want it nice and hot. So I'm going to turn my heat back on, and when it starts to get really hot and thickening up and ready to go, that's when I'm going to add my dumpling dough. And I need it hot because the dumplings are actually going to cook inside the pot with the gravy. So my heat's going to be a little bit higher this time around, and I'm going to use my spatula because it's hard to whisk pieces of chicken. So, and see, even then, this is thickened up relatively nicely, even as it is. Make sure you keep an eye on this now because you don't want things to stick to the bottom. You can see the gravy starting to move as it's warming up. It's just starting to come up to a simmer. You can see around the sides. You see the surface just kind of move a little bit like a mini earthquake. Chicken and gravy quake. So this is almost where I need it to be. We're going to let it go just 1 more minute. I just want to say while we're sitting here waiting for this gravy to come up to temperature, you could absolutely right now throw some veggies in this, some carrots, peas, potatoes, a little bit onion, whatever you wanted. Make a wonderful cream of chicken soup. You could use it just like this and cream of chicken soup, and this would be perfectly fine. You don't have to have the dumplings. But you could add in some veggies of your choice and make it a really nice, creamy winter soup that would be perfect for any weeknight meal. Easy to heat up, ready to go. Okay, see, we're getting our bubbles. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Now, I'm going to give it one final stir. And in go my dumplings. So I've gotten my largest scoop, my cookie scoop. If you're into Pampered Chef, this is the big one out of the set of 3. You can go with smaller dumplings if you want. My family likes the big. I'm going to just, and I do this to make sure that they're uniform. And I'm going to just plop them right into my gravy. Gosh, that last little bit of dough did not want to come out. My last one right in the middle. Okay, now I'm just going to move these around a little bit so I can show you what they look like. That's it right there. Now I'm going to turn this all the way to low and put a cover on. And I'm just going to let that cook for maybe 10 minutes. Just making sure that, I don't smell like anything's burning on or anything like that. So that's almost the end of it, except for serving it up. So chicken and gravy with dumplings. I'll show you what they look like when they're all finished in a couple of minutes. Okay, they should be done. Let's take a look. See how all that heat just cooked those dumplings? These look fabulous. And trust me, they are cooked all the way through. I'm going to just put the cover back on them. They're all turned off. I'm going to set them on the back burner. This right now is lava. You got to let it cool for a few minutes. So just take it off the heat, set it on your back burner, and wait maybe 15, 20 minutes We're just going to scoop that into a bowl, and it's going to be really, really good eats. Okay, so that's my recipe for chicken gravy and dumplings. Again, wicked old-fashioned recipe. Been around for a long, long, long time. Super easy to make, very versatile. You can put it, any leftovers in the refrigerator. It'll last several days. You can freeze them. And you can freeze just the gravy. You can use the gravy to make it as a base for any kind of a cream of chicken soup and vegetables, whatever it might be. Sky's the limit. Remember to keep your salt content low because that chicken base is going to have a lot of salt in it. Make sure that you use salt-free or unsalted butter so that you don't get too much salt in it, because otherwise it's not going to be good eats. Thank you very much for joining me today on Me and Grok in the Kitchen. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up down below. And please follow me on all the social media at Me and Grok in the Kitchen. Thank you very much. And remember, life is too short to eat bad food.